XRP community, I'm going to show you something you've never seen before. It's going to be a really good, interesting video. Stick around and watch the whole thing. I'm going to basically do sort of this outlook for XRP, showing different points of confluence. And also I'm going to take a look at XLM and show you something there. And I actually will start there first. So check this out. So real quick, you can see XLM, right, obviously is in this falling wedge. We broke out of the falling wedge, we back tested, we had this 1 2 1 2, we're sort of going sideways. So what is the measured move of this falling wedge? That gets us right about that 50% retracement if we come right there, right for the point of breakout. Another way you can measure it is also by doing this right here. You take the same thing, but you put your resistance line here, right? This was our breakdown area, right? So this is the real point where it activates the trade, is right here. So what you do is you take this one and you put it right here, right? So right about on that resistance line. So the range of that is right here. So between 33 cents up to that 50-cent line. So somewhere around there. And that is exactly what how rising wedges and falling wedges usually do. And a lot of times as well, they fall, they break out, they back test, they kind of meander, but then eventually they get back to the top of their, where the wedge started, right? So that's what I'm still looking for, is still for XRP and XLM to work its way back into their retracement levels from this actual retracement, because this was the bull market, this was the bear market, this was the retracement. Remember, XLM, XRP didn't get to go on a bull run. So they are still a bull run behind, and that means that the base that has been created over this whole time, right, has been much bigger, which means, right, the bigger the base, the higher in space, the more long-term sustainability. A lot of people looked at it like, oh, it's weak. Yeah, at the time it showed weakness, but what it's doing is just a bigger correction. So rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. You go sideways, just like how we had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, right, before the big breakout. So, but what I wanted to show here, right, so we can see the rising wedge or the falling wedge still in play, but check this out. Here's another, and again, it's all about adding points of confluence to that. So if I take a bars pattern, and I'm sure you've seen this before, but it's kind of not the way I'm going to do it. So check this out. So you can see, the fractal down here, and if I overlay it, right, you can kind of start to see, it's not perfect, but you can start to see the wave structure and kind of where we are in this whole thing. So, so for example, so look at this. We have this down move in the fractal, down move in the price. We have this hump here in the fractal, hump here in the price. Then we shoot up in the fractal, we shoot up in the price. We pull back down, we pull back down, we shoot back up, we shoot back up. We pull back down, we pull back down, we shoot back up, shoot back up, then we pull down one more time, we pull down one more time before going higher, Now, yes, the waves, like this wave took out the top of this wave didn't. But the point of it is not to necessarily show, it's basically showing the time analysis, right? Because if you look how much time this took for it to finish before it exploded, that's an important piece right there. So if you analyze the same amount of time, right, it's about the same to where these pivots were in the waves. And you can also see this here, if I could just do it this way, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, blast off. So we'll do it with the price. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, blast off. Right? So that's another point of confluence that we can see. Now, let me show you XRP. But before I do that real quick, the target for XLM, right, would be, based off just this wave alone, would get us to that 2618, about $2.30. It kind of lines up with the Fibonacci as well. Now, we do probably have, the cycles get longer and the returns get smaller. But that's just the way it is. But I still think a good amount will come in, especially because if you look at XLM, again, it didn't break its top, right? We have a big A, B, C. So we'll see how this plays out in here, right? But it's looking good for a move to the upside. Now, all of this rests on Bitcoin. We've been talking about Bitcoin for a while now, for the potential of it getting down to the bull market support band. Maybe it's finished now, maybe not. But look at this. We do kind of have, obviously it could be a WXY, 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. But if it turns into 5, and you can kind of argue it already is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So maybe it's finished. Or this can come up in a more complex 4 before getting another 5. So it'd be 1, 2, all of this is 3, 4, and then we get 5. 4 in ABC, which would then test the bull market support. But it doesn't have to, because, total 2, total 3 did it. But it seems like that's what it wants to do. Also, there's a lot of liquidity resting below 60K. So if they bring it back up and then they shoot it down, everybody's going to say, look, here's the range right here, right? Look, we broke below the range. It's bearish. We're going down, down. Everybody's shorting. Everybody's selling. Everybody's, panicking. But in reality, it's just finishing up in an A, B, C. And if this happens, if we do get down here, I don't think the alts would get beat up so much, because they're already back down here, right? So there's not a lot for them to give at the moment. So, like, you can see XRP still hasn't broken its low, right? But when you look at Bitcoin, was April 13th was the low. So if you look at Bitcoin, same thing, April 13th. Here was the low here. And then we came back down. So XRP held the low, Bitcoin broke it. Now, in all fairness, Bitcoin obviously is still way above, XRP in a lot of them. So it would make sense that Bitcoin would show more weakness than the alts, given that the alts already had an extreme dump. So that was sort of the thing. What would happen to the alts if Bitcoin decided to come back down to the bull market support band? I think they would pull back. So for example, XRP, right? We came up. Maybe Bitcoin has another bounce. And then when Bitcoin starts to go down to the bull market support band, we come down as well. But we never take out the low. It's basically we come back up and then we make a higher low. So that's kind of what I'm hoping, what I'm expecting, and what I'm thinking. So looking at the price on the 4-hour chart, it's actually looking pretty bullish right now. We got a bullish hammer candle, a 4-hour candle that's about to end. Let's look at the 5-minute chart. Yeah, we got an inverse head and shoulders. It's looking pretty bullish. So we'll see if we get another hit to the high. We got, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but really 1, 2, 3, and then we have a 1, 2, 3, and then now we have 1, 2, maybe we're coming up for 3, right? So the whole thing would be 1, 2, 3, and then we work our way back down. We come back up, we work our way down, hopefully make a higher low, and then continue higher. But we'll talk about that in another video. I just wanted to talk about, this thing that I'm going to show you. So there's actually a couple different charts I wanted to show you, and they all have to do with where we are in the reaccumulation area, right? So we're all down in here, getting that big move, right? Same thing here. We're in this area here, waiting for that big move. Rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways go. Rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways go. So I'm going to show you a chart that compares this to this. So here's one chart. Shout out to ludxrpflr. This is his chart on Twitter. And then here's another chart. Same thing, just less cluttered. But yeah, this one shows the different percentages. Basically, this chart is taking both reaccumulation levels, right? So these two levels here, and basically lining them up and showing the different wave structure. So I thought this chart did an exceptionally well job at highlighting each different wave, and they're basically pinpoint nailed all the different waves. Now, some of them are different lengths, some of them are higher, some of them are lower, and we can talk about that. So the first anomaly, right, is obviously the Judge Torres ruling. We came up here and we had a big explosive move, right? So, but before, a lot of people took their fractals, right, and they tried to overlay the fractal with this fractal, and it worked for a period of time. But what got confusing is the spring, right? So the spring phase, right, we come down, 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 and then you hit the low, we continue higher, right? Just like back over here, we had a spring phase, we come down, we come back up, we hit the low, then we continue higher. So, a lot of people were expecting that over here, but then when we got this big push to the upside, it sort of made it, confusing as to where the spring actually was. So I'm going to kind of show what happened here. So we came, obviously, the beginning of the chart, we had a big push to the upside. This was working its way back to the upside. So we're already at the top, and then it starts to work its way down, right, as this is working its way up. So then we have this small move to the upside, right? We have this very small move to the upside with a fairly large move, which meant that this move down was a lot bigger. This move down was a lot smaller, which then meant the following move was much bigger. It broke the top. This move here didn't break the top. So why is that important? Because this, when it broke the top, allowed for a nice organic spring phase, right? It was just one wave working its way down, then boom. This was oscillating up, down, up, down, up. It didn't know if it was coming or going, right? So it made things challenging. But the reason why, this had a proper spring phase is because it was starting up here. So the height is up here. So it really is, was supposed to do this and then go, right? But it came up too quickly, too fast. So then it had to come back down, come back up, right, in a retracement, and then sort of work its way down. So this whole thing is still a spring. It's just a lot more wavy versus this one here. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. That's the reason why they look a little different. But what I wanted to also talk about is you can see us. I mean, you can even technically say, this was an anomaly and we came up here and then we're starting the spring phase, right? Which means this wave here, back up, right? And then back down, which took out this low, So it'll be interesting to see if we have a little bit more to go. Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but then getting it to turn around. So just looking at this chart, again, gives a lot of confluence in where we are. So think about it for a second, right? We have Bitcoin at an all-time high. We have it consolidating above the bull market support band. We have it, the total 2, total 3 altcoins in an ABC back down to their bull market support band. We still have plenty of wiggle room, right? We see a lot of the altcoins like THETA and all kinds like HBAR. They all broke out of their Wyckoff ranges, and now they're back testing them, right? They're also back testing their bull market support bands. We also have like examples like XLM still needing to go into the retracements, breaking out of the falling wedge. And also, you know, where we are in the structure is the same place, right? We're in that final, hopefully, reaccumulation. And remember, nothing I say here is financial advice. This video is not, anything I say is not financial advice. This is just all putting things together so that we can visualize kind of where we are and what's happening. But, you know, when you look at this chart here, again, this is from ludxrpflr. I've seen it, and it does a really good job of explaining exactly where we are. I mean, you can even see the breakdown of the falling of the trend line. Same thing here, and then we've talked about that too. Also, the price breaking below support right before it takes off. But there's something else I really wanted to show as well. But before I do that, again, like you can see, right, here's our support, and here's our support here. Now, never mind the big wick, but you can see ever so slightly right in there, you can see the price essentially bounce. We take out the low, we grab that liquidity, and we take it higher. And that's, you know, going back to that other chart I shared with the different waves, the different circles. This one here, we can see it's getting more and more clear of where we are. And then you line that up with the price breaking this low here, and then you also line it up with it being in reaccumulation. It's starting to look very interesting. But is there anything else? Is there any more confluence we can add to this? Right? I mean, you can see the price also breaking below. Same thing over here. Right? So, and we'll talk about that. We have this range in here, right? We broke below, same thing. But we already know all that. We've talked about it. Is there anything new? And yes, there is. But to continue going, right? To continue going of what we already know, or maybe you don't, but also we have an A, B, C, D, and an E, right? Same thing here, A, B, C, D, E. So that's another point of confluence, right? And then also the E wave could be a triangle. And we talked about that too, but instead of it being A, B, C, D, E, it would be A, B, all of this is C, then we come up for D, E, and then go. That could happen, right? And that would make sense. But to add even more, right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have A, we have a complex B, and now we're moving down into C. Or it could be a W, X, and a Y. Hopefully it ends quickly, right? So if we look at the smaller time frame, do we see any right now we have 3 waves. So we have 1, 2, and then 3, right? So this could come up for 4 and then finish again for 5. I don't think it would go much lower, but essentially like that. And what I want to see if that happens is a sharp sort of recovery and then get us out of here, if that's the case. But if this is the low, we could probably meander in here for a bit before starting to work our way back up to our resistance points at 60 cents, 63 cents. I mean, we really need a weekly close above 64 cents. You know, between 64 and 66 cents would be an amazing weekly close. Let's look at that. Yeah, that would be, once we break out of this, it's game on, right? I think we're going to get some big moves after we hit 66. I mean, obviously we still have, you know, all of this area in here, this area here, and this area here. So, but once we get through all of this, it makes it a lot easier. And then, you know, we can start to see a big bull run coming in. But I'm going to show you something now. This is Livermore's speculative chart. It's basically an accumulation cylinder. And you can, this is old school. You can go back, type in Jesse Livermore. He was one of the world's most brilliant technical analysts, discovered a lot of different patterns and things like that. But this is sort of, you know, a really famous or infamous chart here. And I think that could potentially be what's happening here with XRP is we're in some type of a accumulation cylinder. So let me show you.
Known as the boy plunger and great bear of Wall Street, Livermore is widely regarded as one of the greatest traders in history. His unique approach to technical analysis and his ability to read the market made him a legend.
So there you go. You can see all his different charts, all his different, you know, findings. Very interesting, right? So, and basically, you know, this accumulation cylinder, right? We come down from a downtrend, and instead of being like Wyckoff, right? You're sort of doing these different points. So, if I draw, right, this same type of, you know, concept here, we can see something really interesting starting to line up here. So first of all, you know, you can look at it like, oh, it's just a broadening wedge, but I think it's the placement of it isn't typically where a broadening wedge would be found, right? It's coming in at the reaccumulation. So isn't it interesting that the shape of this is a sort of an accumulation cylinder with the fact that it's in reaccumulation, right? And it's following, right? Because we know, right, we have a rise, crash, retrace, and now we're down into reaccumulation. And it's taking the shape of a cylinder. See, a lot of times people forget about, you know, these old school accumulation cylinders, and they just kind of look at the fractals and the structures, and you know, we do that too, but I like to take it a step further, right? So there's so much information that can be dissected with XRP. That's why I don't understand a lot of people, they don't like to talk about XRP, or they'll only mention it, you know, for a couple minutes, you know, it's just waddling around, or but there's so much more you can talk about, right? And a lot of people don't like to say until we break a range or if we do something interesting. But, you know, for me, I like to know what, you know, obviously I know what I hold, but I also want to know the position. You know, are we coming in from a position of strength? Are we coming in at, you know, a cycle top for Bitcoin? Are we coming in at a good time? I mean, what's going on, right? So want to get some directional analysis. But if you look, let's see if we can match this up. So there's a couple different ways we can do it. Obviously, you know, we have 8 points, right? So you can see, let's do it like this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, go. right? So same thing here. We have 1, 2, all of that's 3, or I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're getting 6. We come down one more time for 7, and then continue higher. Yeah, that looks good. That makes sense. And then what I really like about it is if you look, we can see support coming in. And what I really wanted to talk about as well is this trend line here, right? This trend line is still holding, and the upper part of it does look interesting. So this Judge Torres ruling that made the price go up there is starting to make more sense, right? Because it was always like, well, why is that there? Why is this big move here? Yeah, because it was a FOMO move by everybody. But from a technical perspective, why did it print that? And to me, because it didn't make sense from this perspective. Remember when we were comparing the different waves, right? And the reason why this wave came in a lot longer, because this wave here was a lot longer. So this basically was the Judge Torres ruling here. We came up and then we came down like this, and then we started going down into that range, right? So again, it's history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and it's definitely rhyming pretty nicely. So I think this is an amazing idea. The more I look at it, the confluence we have with the rest of the crypto charts, where Bitcoin is, the ABC pattern we're at, and then also, the accumulation cylinder, the fact that it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, or a WXY, the fact that it's also in a triangle, A, B, C, D, E, right? The fact that, we have Ripple has a new stable coin coming, more liquidity on the ledger. The fact that XLM hasn't met its falling wedge target and getting back into its retracement levels. And also the fact that, XRP, XLM, they haven't broken out into new all-time highs in a while, right? We've been in a massive accumulation range. I mean, look at this thing, right? So, and then when you compare that, to something like Dogecoin, right? It's the same type of, area where we are, right? We can see when we look at the XRP chart, something is missing, right? Again, we're a cycle and a half behind. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4. We're in 4, 5. So this is Dogecoin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Doge got this big extended fifth. So when you look at XRP, right, and you zoom all the way out, you can see it's way bigger. Look how much bigger it is. We have a 1, 2, 3. All of this is 4, but where is wave 5? We still don't have it yet. So eventually that thing is going to come, and it's going to come big time, and it's going to match up, because again, Dogecoin is sitting way up here. It already had its bull cycle. So basically Dogecoin started like this, it came back down, and now it's going back up. So Dogecoin is sitting here, XRP sitting way down here. So it's all those things I just mentioned, right? And it's just adding and adding and adding. And then you add on top of that the settlement, right? I know Ripple and XRP, Ripple and the SEC are talking about, settlement terms and things like that. So hopefully it comes soon, right? I know they have till like May something for the SEC to respond. So they have to come to some type of an agreement, right? So I know the SEC dropped the case against Brad and Chris personally. I think they're just going more of the institutional sales, but it's not really about the nitty gritty. It's about the fact that the thing needs to end. It needs to be over with because XRP is the only coin other than, XRP and Bitcoin that has regulatory clarity, right? Even Bitcoin doesn't really have so much of a definition, but the judge ruled, right, on this day that XRP is not a security, and that is the law of the land. And you could say, well, it's been for so long, how come the price hasn't done anything? Because the price doesn't move according to what the news says. The price moves according to how it needs to work itself out in the cycle, right? It's kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. But if you told the caterpillar, hey, you're going to turn into a butterfly, so just do it now, and get it over with because eventually you're going to be a butterfly anyway. You can't disrupt the process, right? It has to go through the phases, right? Just like, you spend 9 months in a womb, right? It has to go through. We don't want it to be a premature type of situation. We want it to be a fully developed when this thing comes out, right? And this thing looks like it's going to come out probably within the next, I would say, within the next 1 to 2 years would be a good estimation. Now you can say, well, that's a long time. Well, not really, because when you think about it, it's not going to feel that long because let's say this is the bottom or we have one more low. We start to work our way back up and everybody's excited. Everybody's, and we're already at next year in January, right? So that's already almost a year away, just that little move there, right? We probably play around, we get back up. Now we're breaking above the all time high, right? And that's like the following year. But I don't think so. I think it's going to take less time than that, right? Because we know, look how quickly XRP likes to move, right? And just for a visual, I'll take the same type of fractal here, right? I know you've seen this before, but what I'm going to do is show you again. Remember how in the beginning of the video, how we talked about this being the spring, right? So a lot of people had their fractal like this. They said, okay, now, right, we're going into the spring. So then what happened? Okay, we're going all in. But then what happened? We broke away. And then we came back up and now we're back down. So this whole thing, right, is just this over here. So that's how you match it up. And, this whole thing has been one big spring. It just hasn't been nice and organic like the previous one. Also, just to highlight, this guy, his Twitter handle is on the chart. Crypto Bill Boo. Basically, this is a good chart. This is XRP versus Bitcoin. We have a beautiful double bottom, and it's coming. Everything is lining up. Is basically what I'm trying to say. You have the fractal, you have Bitcoin, you have all the different alts reaching their targets. You have alts breaking out of their Wyckoff zones, testing their bull market support band, heading into the retracement levels as Bitcoin is at the near all-time high. You have XRP versus Bitcoin at almost an all-time low, basically at a double bottom, and that's what happened last time. And then again, you have the fractal, right? You have this insane fractal that has been lining up. You also have Wyckoff, right? So basically, what you could do is just stretch it out a little bit, right? And to say, that's kind of where we are. Something like this. It's not perfect, but just to show you a visual representation, you can see, especially this area right here, right? Both of the charts, we broke the low. Same thing what we're doing now. And we look at this wick. We can actually come all the way down and just wipe everybody out and wick way down here before going to the upside. That's what they like to do. They like to just, you can even see back over here where it had this big final dump, right? Because really this was the range in here, right? And we're ranging, and then boom, we take the low, and then it likes to go up. So we're ranging, we take the low, and then it likes to go up. So we'll see how this continues to play out. Hopefully the low is very, very close. I don't want to go down to, 37 cents or 30, between 33 and 37. But it doesn't matter what I want at the end of the day. So to me, I think this is just part of an awkward spring phase where we're coming down, or even a W, X, and a Y. And we came down, we grabbed that liquidity, right? So, and then comparing that to back over here where we come down, we grab that liquidity. So to me, there's just too many different coincidences that are lining up to make it pretty interesting. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share with you today. Now, as far as targets go, we could take a trend-based fib on this one here. Where'd you go? Trend-based from this low up to the high, back down to the low. And you can see, we keep getting rejected by that 50. But the 1-to-1 is at $1.06, and the 1618 is the next area that I'm looking at, which is around that $1.30, $1.45. So getting above $1, getting to $1 is important, but really cracking above that $1.30, that's when things start to get exciting. And then especially once we crack $2, that's when it really starts to open in the floodgates, not that much resistance up ahead, right? So if this is a diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have an ABC pullback, you take the trend-based fib from the bottom of the first wave to the top of the fifth wave and bring it down to the C wave, contingent that it's over. Now we can come down a little bit more. We'll see. But if once it's over, we get back into our target range up here. And then that would make sense, because when you take it off, right, where does it get us? Above this high, right? This is the peak. Usually you have an A, you have a retracement, and then you have the dump. So A, B, C. So the B wave, right, is the important wave to get above. Right? If we can crack the B wave, you're much more likely to crack the A wave. I mean, obviously, but that's just one way to measure it. Another way is we could take it from the low here up to the top and then drag it all the way back down to where the low is currently. And the 1-to-1 extension is approximately $2.16. And that still has been, the target ever since we bottomed out here back in 2022. So, and then the 1618 target of that would be the all-time high. So it's interesting how that target lines up right with the all-time high. And then obviously, 2618 between $5 and $8 would be the target of that wave. But to me, this is not an impulse wave, right? It's more of a retracement wave. So we would take that same method, just take it down here from the bottom of here to the top, back down to the bottom, right? And that 1-to-1 gets us at $3.50. The 1618, about $4.89 up to that $5.60 area. And then obviously a 4.236 would be that $14, right? That's one way you can do it. The other way, right, is just take a normal fib from the bottom to the bottom there. Let's see, let me drag it out a little bit. And yeah, what, on linear scale, we really need to get above that $2 area. But to me, I think these targets are a little too high, are these retracement levels. So I like to use log scale on the way up. And then once we break out, I switch to linear. So it would make more sense to get above the 786 at $1.63. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is right here, is to get above these two areas, the 702 really. And look at the 702. It comes in right at that swing high, right? That B wave. So, and that's around that $1.30 area. So between $1.30 and $1.60, it's kind of like the green flag. Go, 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 right? And that will come once this reaccumulation area is completing itself. Now, we had our retracement. We have 1, 2, 3, right? Then we developed our base. We oscillated in this, we broke out, and we developed another base. And we're still technically within that range. And what's nice to see is this wick here. We had a nice wick. I wish it was a little longer, but we wicked below and we came below here. We grabbed more, grabbed that liquidity, and now we came back up. So now we need to stay above this candle here, the close, or actually let me probably put that to the actual weekly here. Yeah, so right about there. We want to stay above that 48-cent level. Now we can wick below, we just don't want to close below, right? We don't want to close below that. Now the weekly candle is going to end in the next 3 days or so. So we'll see how it ends, but it probably will take a little bit of time to work itself out. Maybe it comes up, maybe it takes out the low, or maybe it makes a higher low. Whatever Bitcoin's going to do. We just don't want any, big candles to the downside that stay down here too long. We want to just have it quick and get out of there. Kind of like, again, the last time we seen. So if it's a descending triangle, right, we have this thing here, you would kind of expect it to come back up one more time before dumping down. So if we have a big three-wave move and then dump down, then yeah, we can get down to this area before having a better chance at having a bottom. So then the whole thing would be this up wave, this counter wave, right? So this whole thing that took over a year, from May or June 2022 all the way to July 2023. So 1 year going up, right? And then maybe 6 months to a year going down. So July is getting close. So July, from here is 1 year, back down is another year. So a year up, a year counter, and then a continuation. But again, everything is lining up with Bitcoin. We're really, really close. Now, if Bitcoin starts to dump all the way back down here, right, 44K area, then you're probably going to get that with XRP, is getting down to that 30-cent area. But if Bitcoin bounces off of here, like we've been thinking, for the last several weeks, we've been talking about an A, B, C, and us getting back down here. When you look at, like, for example, THETA and total 2, total 3, it did exactly what it needed to do. That's why I'm thinking, well, probably the bottom is either in or it's very, very close. Because you can see we broke out, we back tested the bull market support band, we break out again, A, B, C. we back tested the bull market support band. So it wouldn't make sense for us to lose it. If we did, we would probably back test this, but then that would be it. We don't want to go any lower than that. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Same thing with total 3. I mean, if we do come up and lose it, we definitely want to back test here before going higher. We definitely don't want to lose this support, because then it would just mean, if we did, we would probably go into reaccumulation, right? Which is sort of been the main idea, right, for Bitcoin. But since Bitcoin's all the way up there, right, close to its all-time high, we could see the total 3 is in a rise, crash, retrace. If it goes into reaccumulation, something like this, it could take another 6 months to a year before breaking out. So that's kind of, we're at a crossroads. Are we going to get something like that where it takes, another 6 months to a year? Because when you look at the total market cap, or the total 3, the altcoins, rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. Same thing that happened down here. We had a rise, crash, we had a retracement, very shallow, but then we came into this bull flag, sort of, So maybe that's what we get here, this bull flag before the big run up, right? You can start to see the symmetry. But the reason why I was a little conflicted with that is because you can see how much time we spent down here. We made a proper base, right? Over here, we didn't make anything. It was just nothing. We came up and we came back down. So maybe we don't need to go into reaccumulation. Maybe just a simple pullback will do. But yeah, worst case scenario for the alts would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C, all the way back down to the Wyckoff area, right? And sort of just ranging in here before the breakout. And that would be a rise, crash, retrace. We go sideways for reaccumulation, right? Same thing, kind of like what XRP did back in the day. Rise, crash, retrace. We go down for reaccumulation. We go sideways. And that's kind of where we are now. So if that happens, I don't see how XRP would stay within its reaccumulation range. To me, then it would be the more bearish idea, right? Which would probably be an A, B, and then we have this this 3-wave move in the middle, followed by another 3-wave move back down. So it'd be kind of like a weird, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like a W, X, right? And then like a complex Y, which would get us down to that 16, 17 cent area. Before, if that happens, everybody's going to, flip out. But at that happens, then I'm very confident that the bottom would be in, because then it would be a completed WXY structure. So far, we have just reaccumulation in here. But this, again, just for me, I'm very bullish, but trying to look at it bearishly, remove my bias and look at it as bearishly as possible. This could be, a bear flag, right? We have a bear flag here. So if I flip it upside down, if I flip the chart upside down, you can see, right? We move up, we're correcting, and then we break out. But then when I flip it back, it's really, we're going down, right? But again, you can see we had this bear flag here, but it was actually the opposite way, right? So it actually broke to the upside. It was actually basically part of that bear market. So, those are kind of the options here. If this is not successful, the fractal, the Livermore cylinder, right? The the different, what I'm trying to say, the accumulation cylinder, right? If that's not that, if it's not reaccumulation, if it's not any of that stuff, then all it is a retracement of this crash, right? So obviously this is our crash, this is our retracement, and then we're finally in that C leg if it's going to be the bearish option. So it would be some type of 1, 2, 3, just like this was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. The reason I don't like that too much is because if you look closely, we already had 3 here, right? We had 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if this is 1, 2, 3, and then we get another 1, 2, and 3, it would probably be that final dump, and then this whole thing would be a WXY. So I'm just showing you if it was going to be, now we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't think that's the case. But again, if Bitcoin just starts to lose everything and starts to crash and capitulate, then, or at least go into, if Bitcoin dumps, I don't think it's going to go below the low. I think what it's going to do is go into reaccumulation. And that's kind of what we've been talking about for a long time, but we don't talk about it anymore because Bitcoin broke out, right? It was supposed to, have a rise, crash, retrace, get up to the retracement level, then go into reaccumulation, then go sideways, then break out. But it could still technically do that, rise, crash, retrace, then we come all the way down for reaccumulation. Then we go sideways, maybe not so much down here because we're so high up. So it probably more in that 40 to 50K area if it wanted to go into reaccumulation. So if it had a big dump, it would probably go sideways for a while in reaccumulation before it breaks out. And then that would make sense from a bearish perspective because you would then have, right, kind of like a shoulder ahead, and then you kind of make another shoulder, right? So it could totally do that. And if it did that, we could see a big reckoning in the altcoins because it doesn't look so pretty right now. I mean, it looks like, we're in this bear flag. It looks like it wants to break down and dump. But I'm not going to say that yet until we have more evidence because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this is, like the fractal, the cylinder, where we are in the different wave structure, reaccumulation, where Bitcoin is at. So it's looking really good for this being reaccumulation, but we're really dangling by a thread. And if we get down even lower, then we're even more playing with fire. But, sometimes, like going back over here, that's what had to happen. You had to break this line and play with that fire to get that big move to the upside. So, and then, XLM, right, and a lot of these other coins, right? I mean, look at THETA Fuel, for example. It looks like it still needs more upside, right? It just spent the last 2 years in a Wyckoff accumulation. We broke out and now we're playing around. It looks like it needs another wave back into its retracement levels before then either going into reaccumulation breakout or before flagging out, breaking out, right? Or even coming down into a C leg, A, B, C. But I don't think that's the case. And now this THETA Fuel is just an example. I mean, you can look at a lot of different coins, right? Ethereum, or even like Aave, right? Some of them look more bearish than others. ADA. We have a range in here. We broke the range and now we're back testing it. So it would have, we had this big crash. We went sideways. It appears like it needs to go into a retracement. Right? So somehow, some way, that should be the case. Same thing. I mean, look at Filecoin. We're down here, go up. We come down, we're back down here. We break out, we back test. Seems like we need to come back up. So a lot of altcoins, I mean, even HBAR, you can see Wyckoff range. We broke out. A lot of them look the same. XRP is the one that looks a little different. We back test the range. We continue going higher. So a lot of them look like they need to get into the retracement levels. So how does that look? Well, we'll all find out. But in order to get there, right, we're going to still need a little bit more work with Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin still has plenty of bullish momentum. But back testing this and breaking out, as soon as if we back test it, or as soon as we start to flip around and take off, that's going to be like the confirmation. Okay, yeah, the alts are definitely going further into the retracement levels. And then, again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we get that final fifth wave, and then we go into distribution. This is usually when the alts take off pretty wild. Another way you can look at it is 1, 2, all of this is 3, 4, 5, and then that's the end of the third wave. Then we get the fourth wave, and then we get the fifth wave, and that would just take so much more time. So, and that's kind of where we are. And then Bitcoin dominance, we really want to, if you look at the weekly chart, we do have weekly bearish divergence forming. Obviously, you can take it out, right? But we, maybe one more high here. We have a hit to the high. You have 3 drives to the high. Sometimes it likes to finish, and then it'll start to fizzle out. But yeah, that'll do it for this update. And then also the dollar. We don't want the dollar to break out. So we have a doji candle here on the weekly, which is good. Hopefully it gets even more dojious, right? We don't want it to break out. If this dollar breaks out, then we're probably going to dump, right? And I'll do rapid fire. I'll talk about Flare. I know someone asked about Flare. Flare's doing okay. We're recovering, right? We broke above the bull market support band. We're back testing it. Let's look at the daily chart here. Yeah, we have a nice impulse off the bottom, right? Let's see. Do we have divergence? Yeah, we do. Because if you look here, right, we have our low and then our high. And then this one we have our low and our lower low. This one we have a low and a higher low. So we have bullish divergence, which then kicked off this wave. 1, 2. Maybe this is 3, and we're getting an A, B, C in wave 4, and then we go up for wave 5. It's kind of how it's looking, unless, of course, this is the third wave and this is the fifth wave. But yeah, it kind of looks like it's in a fourth wave, and we're flagging out for A. We came up for B, and then we came down, and now we're holding the bull market support band. That's good. Now we could have one more dip to the low. Always know that, right? It would look more completed, right? A more completed C leg. Now sometimes it did hit the 786 on this trend base. Sometimes we can even hit the 1-to-1, right? So that would be our last line. We want to hold that. So if it did come down a little bit further, want to hold right in here, about that 2 cent to 0.022 area. But yeah, it could be finished now. I mean, we got the bull market support band here. So a lot of people receive their flare drop. I did too. I mean, they send it out in bunches, like every several months they'll give me a little bit of the airdrop instead of just one lump sum. But yeah, I mean, this thing was all the way at $2. I mean, people thought they were going to rake in a lot of cash, but I had a feeling, usually when it came out, it just dumps and then it comes all the way. Now it's basically worth nothing, right? So I think you got, was it 1 for 1 for your XRP, but it's only 3 pennies. If I'm holding Flare, I would just hold it. I want to wait until we get back up to at least 64 cents up to $1.30, right? So to me, it looks like we have this move up, we have this move back down, maybe an A, B, and then a C, right? So once we break this support here, you see this gap right here? There's no trading volume in that gap. So it was just a free fall. So once we break this line at 4 cents, it's going to be a straight shot up to that 24 cent. So that's going to be a huge move there if it can do that. So from here all the way up, just to fill that gap, that would be almost 300 to 400%. So between 350 up to 430. So that would actually be a good trade, maybe. Not financial advice, but yeah, you can see here, right? You have trading volume all in here, but then you have this gap between here, and it's just an open space. So usually when the price breaks it, it just boom really quickly gets back up there. So that could be the decision where we go back down, or do we we correct a little bit before breaking out of that. So I think that would be a good trade if we can time it properly. So yeah, so far so good. We're holding support in here. It would be nice to get that reversal and get going. So yeah, I'm still looking at this Livermore cylinder. You can see kind of some drawings there on XRP. Here's both side by side. But anyways, guys, if you made it this far, I'd really appreciate hit that like button and drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about all that. And if you have any coins you want me to take a look at, you can drop them in the comment section. We can do it on the next rapid fire. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and stay up to date here, because I'm tracking, if you're an XRP holder and you want quickly access to the latest move, definitely hit subscribe, because I'll be all over that. And if you want to support the channel, you can always do so through the YouTube tip jar. And basically, yeah, that always is very appreciative, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.